Welcome to the Stay Curious podcast brought to you by Alpha UK. My name's Chloe and this is Alex.
This podcast is all about being open-minded, staying curious and fueling your intrigue. We're going to be hearing stories from people all across the UK and beyond. We're going to be covering big things, small things, the totally irreverent as well as the deeply theological. We hope you have fun listening along.
Hello and Merry Christmas and welcome to this week's very special episode of our Stay Curious podcast.
Merry Christmas, everyone, or as they say in Wales, Nadolig Llawen.
Oh, very good Welsh, Al.
Thanks,
Well done.
man. People might not know I actually am Welsh.
Well, I think people know by now.
Yeah,
Because
of
your
the
accent is so good.
Yeah, because I'm so able to do such a good accent.
Yeah. But we have a very special podcast episode ahead. We've got a little Christmas special.
A Christmas special with an amazing Christmas special guest who has got the inside knowledge to answer the one Christmas question that we all want to know, or certainly my 10-year-old children want to know, is there actually a Santa? Or to phrase that better, is Santa Claus real?
But before we get into that,
Okay.
we start every podcast with a question from the listeners
Okay.
who are curious. And this week we have a question that says, it's a Christmas theme. What is an unusual thing that makes you feel Christmassy?
Oh,
So I know, I got one.
Okay.
So in our stockings growing up as kids, we'd always have a tangerine at the bottom. And I would always eat it in the morning before moving on to my chocolate coins. So now, even in like the summer, when I have a tangerine, just like the smell and the taste reminds me
feel
of Christmas.
Yeah, that's good.
It makes me feel Christmassy.
My stocking as well used to be full of oranges,
A magazine.
nuts. We used to have like a bag of walnuts.
Oh,
I know.
That's unusual
And now
for
I think
a
if I
kid.
gave that to my kids, they'd be really cross.
yeah.
I think it was my dad. That was his sort of thing that he used to just put in there.
Walnuts.
Bit disappointing. No, not sure I've got something unusual that makes me feel Christmassy. As soon as it's the 1st of December, I'm Home Alone, then Home Alone 2, obviously.
Yeah, but that's normal
I know.
Christmas. Yeah.
But what I will say is that my favourite day of the whole year, which me and my sister used to look forward to every year, is the 23rd of December. Or as I call it, Christmas Eve.
Nice.
Yeah,
Why?
Christmas Eve is the best day because you're still early enough for Christmas to be far away. But by then you're like,
Yeah.
man, it's Christmas now.
It's
It really is Christmassy.
See, my favourite days of a Christmas is 27, 28, 29.
No, they are the worst
No.
days of the entire year.
When would you ever get 3 days to just sit and eat chocolate and watch films?
Yeah, although
That's
as
not
a grown
thing.
up, I think you just have no money left because you've like spent all your money, nothing's happening, and you're thinking, man, I need to go on a diet.
As a grown-up.
As a grown up,
Oh, well,
yeah.
you have a very sad Christmas. Come to
Yeah.
ours for Christmas if you want.
Yeah.
We have a great time.
Well, in the gap, in that weird,
Yeah, I love
nobody
it.
plans anything either, so
No,
you're a
but
bit
it's
bored.
nice. No, man.
Okay, really
Well,
disagree.
Anyway, another thing, this is a bit random, that makes me feel Christmassy is I'm a Celeb to Get Me Out of Here. Because it's been on TV for like 10 years now.
Okay.
And it's always
No,
on
I've
around...
never watched it.
No way.
No, I've never watched it.
Oh, well, you're going to be in for a treat in a minute.
Okay.
Because, so I was watching it this year and the music came on and it makes me feel Christmassy.
Yep.
But I was watching the Bush Tucker trials that they do, which is always something really gross where you're covered in slime and there's loads of, horrible creatures over you, spiders, snakes, etc.
Yeah.
But they do like eating challenges and I watched it and I thought, this is a fantastic 40 before 40 for Al.
Oh.
So, because it's our special Christmas episode.
How have you found things I need?
You can get online on Amazon.
Online from dodgy suppliers.
Online. I've managed to get real, legit, dried, crunchy buffalo worms, mealworms, crickets, and locusts.
Oh.
And as you're 40 before 40, Al, you have to eat a full handful.
No.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I was going to say 40 bites, but no.
For those who don't know, I'm looking for 40 really
yeah.
fun new challenges and experiences to do before I turn 40. Eating a bag of Amazon bought like insects is not on my list,
Well,
Chloe. Oh,
Oh,
I'm not eating a handful of those. That is disgusting.
you have to. We are
No, I'm not
live.
doing
We are
it.
live on the podcast, and you have to have a
No.
handful. They're dead. It's fine. Actually, it
Obviously they're
says
dead.
that says
I can't eat that.
they're high in fiber.
No, I'm not doing it.
High protein, no sugar. People actually eat this
can't
as a
do
snack.
it.
Yes, you can. You can do
Let
it
me
out.
read the list.
You can eat
Is it
it.
sure
There's
it's all
also
right?
there's one for kids as well.
Crunchy mixed What's one for kids? What do you mean?
As in, there was a kids one, but I gave you the adult one.
What?
It's
Ready to eat
totally
dried crunchy
legit.
buffalo worms, mealworms, crickets, and locusts.
People eat
It's
these as like a legit
possible
snack.
That I will be sick.
No, you'll be fine, man.
Dried crickets? I can't eat a cricket.
Well, this is your 40 before 40. Just put some in your
I need a
hand.
glass of water.
Put it in.
I'm not going to do that.
Why? What are you
I was
going
going
to
to
do?
just have one.
No, you can't just
Look
have
at that.
one.
Can
I want a
show
little
cup?
handful. Okay.
Oh, it's so gross. Oh, actually really gross.
Don't look at it. Just
Dropped it.
Why don't
Sorry.
I put some in your hand and you just put it in?
Look at it. It's an animal. That's like you can't eat that.
I'm going to give
Can
you
you
a
see that
countdown.
on the camera?
5, 4,
No,
3.
no. I'm going to do it. Sorry. What should I do? Eat a handful. Oh, this is really gross, Chloe.
Right, let me put some in your hand for you.
Okay.
I'm going to pick one of each.
Do you think I should crunch some?
And you can just, crunch it into the mic.
Why don't we do it together? Why don't we do it together? Yeah.
This is your 40 before 40.
But you could do it as 30 before 35. Okay, I'll eat those. Okay.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, 3. Okay.
3,
I'm doing
2,
it.
1. Yes, Al! How did it taste?
Sorry, it wasn't a very... I feel embarrassed that I wasn't more...
Manly.
Yeah, I'm going to... it was horrible.
Would you like to do that again?
No.
Did it taste? You just washed it down with water. Did you even taste it?
I did crunch it with my teeth.
And was it? How did they taste? Tell the listeners.
Smoky.
Smoky.
Yeah, try one. Do you want one, producer Josh? Do you want to try something? Sure? He doesn't want one.
Well done.
Have one of those.
But it's not my 40 before 40.
Look at that. Crunch it. That's some water.
This wasn't the aim.
No. Oh. You are doing it better than I'm doing it.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
I feel embarrassed
Just taste
that I
the
didn't do it
cardboard.
very well. I'm going to try better. Shall I do better?
Yeah, do it better. Just chuck them in. Go on,
Okay.
whole handful. Yes, Al.
Oh man, it's rough.
They're a little bit cardboardy.
It's the thought that makes
It's more
you feel
the thought of it. It doesn't taste that bad,
No.
but
I've
it's
still got
not
it in my
great.
teeth. Where are the kids' ones then?
They're upstairs.
Okay. How are they different for
They
for a
just
child?
don't have the kids' ones. Don't have
Ugh.
the buffalo wings or I don't know.
Okay, very good. Well, our guest for today is Bishop Graham Tomlin, which I think I might take my antlers off for Bishop Graham Tomlin.
All right.
Yeah, let's do
I'll
that.
take my hat
A bit
off.
more serious. Bishop Graham Tomlin is a bishop in the Church of England, but he is an expert, in Santa Claus. And is
Wow.
going to be able
Imagine
to answer...
being an expert in Santa.
Yeah, so we're going to ask him loads of questions about that. So to the podcast, can we welcome Bishop Graham Tomlin? We're joined on our podcast now by our guest, Bishop Graham Tomlin. Bishop Graham, welcome to the Stay Curious podcast. Thank you for being with us.
Great to be with you. Nice to see you, Chloe. Nice to see you, Alex. Really good to looking forward to the conversation.
Well, before we ask you a little bit about yourself, have you ever tried bugs, Graham?
I've not tried bugs.
Do you watch what's it called?
I'm a Celebrity.
I'm a Celebrity.
Very, very occasionally.
I've never
this-
seen it.
And I've been turned off it totally.
Is this something you would like to try as
Bugs,
you
go
finish
on.
2023? Go
I'll give it a
on,
go.
So
Graham.
much better than me.
Well done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was it?
I'm not looking at it.
Just,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. It's still
I'm
going.
just going to eat it. There you go.
So much
Graham,
braver than me. I
you
made
were
such
so
a
much-
fuss,
yes.
Graham. I'm so
Well done, Graham.
embarrassed.
I'm so impressed.
That
I
is
might
embarrassing.
regret that later
Yeah,
on.
maybe.
Swig of
you know.
coffee
Yeah,
to wash
maybe.
it down.
Swig of coffee.
Get it out your teeth.
Definitely need that.
That was impressive. That was much
I
smoother
know.
than yours. Yeah.
I do feel a bit ashamed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Graham, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, well, I'm Graham Tomlin. I I grew up in Bristol in the West Country, and so I'm a bishop in the Church of England. I was the Bishop of Kensington in West London for 7 years. Before that, I taught theology, both in Oxford University and in a place called St Mellitus College in London. I now run a new thing called the Centre for Cultural Witness, which is based in Lambeth Palace, which is where the Archbishop of Canterbury lives. And it's trying to work out how we retell the Christian story in public today. So we run a great website called seenandunseen.com with all kinds of new things coming out every day on Christian perspectives on just about everything. And that's kind of what I do.
Great.
So good. Graham was the Dean of St Mellitus College when I trained to be a priest in the Church of England.
So you've met.
I was when Alex
He
was,
was basically my
little
headmaster.
student.
Did you
Yeah,
read
yeah.
any of his
Waiting around.
essays? His theology
It wouldn't have been
essays?
worth it.
Oh,
It would have been a bit of a
Probably
waste
did
of
at some
time.
point.
Yeah,
Exactly.
probably did read something very
I'm sure I
briefly.
learned something from Alex's essays. Sure I did.
wow.
I'm not writing
High
an essay.
praise.
Yeah. Bishop Graham. Do you like people to refer to you as Bishop Graham? I always think it's like that's the done thing, isn't it? You
Yeah,
suppose
kind
when
of.
you meet a bishop, you should say, "Nice to see you, Bishop."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what people do. That's
Yeah.
right. I respond to most things, but that one
Or you.
works quite
yeah,
well.
yeah, but Bishop Graham's
Yeah.
a better one.
Yeah.
For those people who don't know, maybe they're not in the Anglican Church, what did bishops tend to do? And is that like what you wanted to be when you were a boy, grow up to be bishop?
No, it wasn't something I kind of dreamt of when I was a teenager watching Bristol City. It wasn't right in my mind, but God has some strange things in mind. So what bishops do, a bishop, simply the word means overseer. It comes from a Greek word, episkopos, which is overseeing something. And so basically what you do as a bishop, you oversee a whole number of churches. So the area that I was bishop of in Kensington in the Diocese of London had about 100 churches, including HTB. And my job was to oversee those churches, to be a bit of a focus of unity for them, to help to be a pastor to the clergy and the people, to teach the faith, and to be a leader in mission, trying to kind of keep the churches outward focused rather than inward focused. And that's kind of what a bishop does.
Oh, amazing. So as well as doing that, though, you are a theological educator. So you are a theologian. And we've got a very theological question to ask you on our Christmas special today, and it comes from my 7-year-old daughter, Florrie. Would you like to hear this question?
I would love to hear
I
it.
recorded last night, and she knew it was for you, and so this is what Florrie wants to ask.
Does Santa Claus die or not?
Oh.
Any other questions, Lodge?
How old is he?
They are actually two really
Does
good...
she believe in Santa?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, how old is she?
She is 7, and her older sister does no longer believe. She's no longer a believer, and she found out last week. and she
Is she sad or is she?
No, she was like, okay, happy to, yeah. So I won't play Florrie this whole thing, but 2 questions there.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to say, is Santa Claus real? But she wants to know, does he die, and how old is he?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, very good question. Well, the real Santa is a figure back in the 4th century called Saint Nicholas. And so Santa Claus is a kind of corruption of Saint Nicholas. That's kind of where it comes from. And so, yeah, the real Santa, the real Saint Nicholas, yeah, he did die in around 340 AD, so quite a long time ago. But as we believe for all Christians, you never die. In some ways, you die from this life, you pass into the life of God. And so you're present and in waiting for the resurrection. So in another sense, Santa is not dead.
Santa is alive.
Santa is alive.
Santa is real
That
and
is
alive.
yeah, very good, Graham.
Yeah,
Good
that's
way
right.
around that question.
Yeah.
That's my answer, exactly.
What made Saint Nicholas a saint?
Well, he was born around 260 AD. He lived about sort of 80 years. I mean, it was a very interesting story. He grew up in a town called Patara in Armenia, which is sort of near Turkey. And his parents, well, the story goes that his parents died when he was quite young. They died of the plague, and they left him quite a fortune. So he was quite a wealthy young man, wondering what to do with his life. But we also know that he had a really profound Christian faith from the early days. And so there are all these stories about particularly how he used his wealth to bless the poor and to bless people who were really struggling in life. And I can tell you 1 or 2 of them if you want. But he gives all these stories about how this radical generosity that he had, this radical faith in Jesus Christ, his compassion for the poor, and especially for children, for young people. And out of those stories, basically when he died, these stories got told again and again. There was a life written of him. And so really, in the Middle Ages, he became one of the kind of most famous, most celebrated saints in the kind of Christian world. And there are churches all over Europe. There's about 1,200 churches, I think, dedicated to him, about 400 of them here in the UK. And so he's a very popular saint. And so that's kind of why he became a saint. But yeah.
And probably one of the most popular saints to today.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Santa Claus all over the world.
Yeah, everybody
would be
knows
him.
him.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
So is he the same as Father Christmas?
Well, yeah, he is. I mean, basically what happened was that St. Nicholas, the stories of St. Nicholas got told again and again through the Middle Ages. And it was really kind of more recently in the kind of 19th century in the Netherlands in particular. His feast day, the day he died on the 6th of December. And that's the kind of day when everyone remembers St. Nicholas. And around that time, they used to give gifts because he had this reputation for radical generosity. I'll tell you the story in a minute. And so people would give gifts to their friends, not on Christmas Day, but on the 6th of December. And he was called, I mean, in Dutch, it's called Sinterklaas. And that then Dutch immigrants to the United States took these stories of Sinterklaas and giving gifts at that time of the year. The Coca-Cola adverts in the 1930s created the big sort of, rosy cheeks, beard, red thing, elves
So it's Coke.
flying through the sky, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's really not part of the St. Nicholas story.
Okay.
And then that's kind of where it's Santa Claus. So it has origins in that Christian story early in the early church, but it got kind of laid on with all kinds of other things over the years.
But some of our traditions, like giving bags of chocolate money and stuff, and stockings, they are like really part of St. Nicholas's story, aren't they?
Yeah. So there's a story that So Nicholas heard of a family that had fallen on hard times. The father had taken out various debts and was being pursued by the loan sharks, basically. And he had these 3 daughters, and the only way in which he could possibly raise any money, a really poor family, was to basically to sell off these daughters into, well, one version of the story is to sell them into slavery. Another version is prostitution. So this was a family in real dire straits. Anyway, so Nicholas heard of this story and decided he'd do something about it. And so he when the older child was coming to the point where she was going to have to be sold off, he got a bag of gold coins together in a little bag and sort of crept up to the house and chucked the bag in through the window. You know, the family were delighted, wonderful, that's great. And they managed to get a dowry for the daughter, and she made a good marriage and everything else. Anyway, the second one came along, did the same thing. And then the third one, the story goes, is he threw the bag so far into the room that it fell into a sock that was hanging over the fire, drying. And so hence the kind of, presents into the stocking on Christmas Eve and all that kind of thing. So that's something of where this sort of story came from. But it's a kind of example of this kind of radical generosity of a person who used his wealth and basically gave it away in service of the poor.
It's quite good, isn't it? Because sometimes I feel like as a Christian, we sort of don't want to embrace the present giving and that side of it because it feels a bit commercial. But actually, even that generosity is rooted in Christianity.
Yeah. And amazing that there's a lot of saints that are famous for different things, like Saint David in Wales, famous for healing.
Yep.
Saint Patrick in Northern Ireland.
All of Ireland.
Yeah.
All of Ireland,
and,
chasing away the snakes.
Yeah, and they're famous for different things, but how Saint Nicholas is famous for generosity and how that really has gone global.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, isn't it? The importance of generosity.
And there's a connection to that into the Christmas story, I think. There's another story of St. Nicholas, because in 325, there was this famous council called the Council of Nicaea, where all the bishops in the world at the time got together in Nicaea to kind of hammer out what Christians really believe about Jesus Christ. And it was focused on the teaching of this man called Arius, who was teaching that Jesus was a human being, the best human being that ever lived, but he wasn't in any way divine.
I wrote an essay on this.
We all learned this in our theology lectures.
Does it matter?
Exactly, that's
what
right,
matter is he made of?
Yeah.
Same substance. Homoousius.
Very good.
Yes, Graham. Yeah. He is of the same substance as the
Exactly.
Father.
And so in this council, Arius was going on about how, no, Jesus is not a divine being. He's just a human being. He's the best example of Christian faith you could possibly have. And the way the council went is it decided that was not what Christians believe. What we really believe about Jesus is that he's fully God and fully man. He's fully divine. Anyway, there's a point in this story where Nicholas was supposed to be at the council, whether he was or not is another question. But in the story, he gets so incensed at the teaching of Arius. He's really furious about him. He strides across the room and punches him in the mouth.
Whoa.
Wow.
So here you have the idea of Santa Claus punching a heretic. Which is a kind of image to conjure with.
Yeah.
It's not in the
Now you kind of think, and he was sent home for bad behaviour from the council because it's not what bishops do, punch people, even heretics. But anyway, I think the really interesting thing about that story is that what the Council of Nicaea was trying to grasp was that in Jesus Christ, God has given us himself, not just a present, not just an example, not just a set of instructions, but he's entered into the very heart of human life to live every experience that we go through, so that we can always say we are never alone. There's always God with us, Emmanuel. And that's what was at the heart of Nicaea, the generosity of God, of giving himself, not just a present, but giving himself to us. And I think that's what incensed Nicholas so much, that was being denied by Arius, which is why he went over and, not a good idea to punch people. But it did his reputation for a defender of orthodoxy no harm at all in the later years. But I think so. There's a kind of connection between Nicholas's belief in the Nicene Creed, this picture of the radical generosity of God, and his generosity. Because if you believe that's the way things are, that at the very heart of everything there is a God who is generous, who gives himself, that's bound to lead to a generosity of life and giving away the stuff that you have and not holding on to it. So that's I think where the connection is.
Which also feels like right at the heart of the Christmas message, that exactly. Santa Claus was defending the Christmas message that God was with us, not just somebody who was like God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that God had given him his very self, even to the point of dying for us on a cross. That's how generous God is, and that's what I think at the story, the heart of the Santa story, and that's kind of why we give gifts at Christmas, as a reflection of the generosity of God to us.
Really good. And you, actually, you and I have been together, but it is possible to go to see his shrine, where he's buried, or his
well,
remains.
That's right. The story goes that he, as I said earlier on, he died around 340 odd AD in a place called Myra in southern Turkey, which is where he was the bishop, and his bones were there. And then in the 11th century, that part of Turkey got overtaken by the Muslims. It was became under Islamic rule. And so Christians in Western Europe were keen to kind of get back the bones of St. Nicholas because he was a kind of famous saint and everything else, and it was not a good idea that they were sort of resting under Islamic control. And anyway, there was a bit of a tussle between Venice and Bari and Florence and all these Italian cities. Who's going to get the bones of St. Nicholas? Anyway, this group of very entrepreneurial sailors from Bari were on their way back from Antioch in Syria towards Bari in southern Italy, and they thought, well, let's just pop into to Myra and see what we can do. And they kind of, the story goes how they sort of said to the people outside the tomb of St. Nicholas, well, we're just going to go in and have a look, that's what we're going to do. And they said, fine. Anyway, when they got in there, they kind of quickly scooped up as many of the bones as they could and made a runner for it.
Whoa.
Got to the boat, sailed back to Bari, and here are the bones of St. Nicholas. And so then pretty soon after that, they built this huge, great basilica, this huge, great building, which we visited when we went there a couple of years ago. Magnificent big white building in which they put the bones of St. Nicholas, and people visit them to this day.
Wow.
Is that just
stolen?
Yeah. Is there when we were there, isn't there some story of like there is like oil or something? What is that?
Well, there's a strange thing that the bones of St. Nicholas are there, and that now, quite how it happens, no one quite knows. I mean, you might say it's a miracle, or is it something else going on? I don't know. But the bones seem to kind of emit this strange liquid. And so every year on the 6th of December, the feast day of St. Nicholas, the priests of the church go in and they kind of select and take out a little bit of this liquid from the bones. And
from
then,
the what's that called? Sarcophagus? No.
Yeah. There's a kind of underneath one of the altars there's a kind of casket with the bones of St. Nicholas, and so they kind of go in and it's not very much of it, but they take it there and they kind of water it down, and then pilgrims take it away and they use it for baptisms, or they use it for kind of other bits and pieces. So that's the story. Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
So if Florrie asks me, is Santa real? Legitimately, I can say
this is some oil from his bones.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'll share that with Florrie. I'm not sure that would please her. I've got a stocking full of few Floss. It's the liquid siphoned off Santa Claus's
Not watered down.
1700-year-old bones.
Exactly. Not a great Christmas
I think
present
she
in the
wants
stocking.
some Elsa slime.
Stick with the tangerine in the bottom.
Yeah.
So Santa is real. I mean, the elves and the sleigh and the kind of snow and all that kind of stuff, maybe not, but there is a real Santa. And he's someone really worth getting to know, and then there's that's what saints are. Saints are examples of the Christian life. They're people that, you might want to follow this person because they're a good picture of what being a Christian is like. And Nicholas is one of those for us.
And in his life and all he did, he points towards Jesus.
Absolutely. That's right, yeah. He points towards the generosity of God giving himself to us in Christmas. Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Graham, for joining us and for answering that big question. We heard it here. Santa is real.
Yeah.
We feel like we've learnt a lot, and there are so many other things that we could have asked you about. But thank you for joining us for our Christmas special episode. It's been great to have you with us.
And this brings us to the end of our Stay Curious podcast of 2023. But we'll be back in the new year, so please tune in 2024. But thank you so much for listening. If you have a 40 before 40 file, feel free to DM us at our socials, Run Alpha, or you can email us, runalpha@alpha.org.
UK@alpha.org.
Well done, Al.
Thanks.
UK@alpha.org with podcast in the subject. But thank you so much for listening. Merry Christmas and see you next year.